So throughout the writings, the conundrums, the woeing, the toing and throwing, the blaming, the finger pointing, um, some even disguised blatantly as leadership pitches in some cases, especially for Robert Jerricks, looking at what he said, of course, in the loss and what he said in recently, announcing his pitch. Blatantly a leadership pitch. But you'll remember one of the things I said, we may very well come across an actual conservative who can see some of the problems in their party, but they will not be listened to. And in a way, I feel like the guy we're covering today, we're going to have a look at this guy's Substack, but he normally writes for like the Spectator, the news. I think it's what Spectator, New Statesman, Unheard, The Critic, and elsewhere. And he said, he's putting this very much from a right centrist perspective, sort of from his point of view. And we're not going to go through over it. There's just some parts I really want to highlight because he's right in the way that what the Conservatives do need to do. He is right in some of the areas, but there is no acceptance from him that the party itself has such fundamental and structural problems that there is going to have to be a huge, huge fight to deal with the party. If it ever is really to either, change for quote the better, or even survive, that there has to be, something done about it. Like I say, I think this guy very, very much, I think, lone voice in the wilderness. They ain't ready to accept this yet. Not even the membership, I think, is ready to accept this yet. So, hey, here we go. So, like I say, we're going to get into this because I think this is kind of interesting. It's a good examination of this, and I'd love to speak to this guy. I don't know if he's ever going to see this video or whatever, but I would love to speak to someone like this who certainly is a lot more, shall we say, moderate conservative, and just ask him like a ton of questions about what he thinks of like the Conservative Party. An whole mix of questions that I've got for someone like this. But as always, thank you very much to all those people, like I say, who do help and support the channel. Like I say, please do remember to click on the like, the share button. The down below, there's the Patreon page, there's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there is the Pony Club down below as well. Nearly forgot that. So, anyway, let's go over to this guy's Substack. This is from the Joxley Writes Substack by, of course, Joxley himself. So I'm just going to go over this because I think this sort of really gets to the heart of this. So it's now been nearly 3 weeks since the election. The initial shock of the scale of the Tory defeat should be wearing off. The party's new MPs are now settling into Westminster as the old ones now slope away. In the coming days, electing a new leader will begin, and edging towards whatever recovery might look like. In my last few essays, I've now looked very in depth at the peril that the party is in the background that has precipitated, in this crisis. And I've made the case now for the resurrection of the party. And bear in mind, I haven't seen some of these. Like I say, it's his Substack. He's probably got, all this, etc. It's Substack. But yeah, I'd kind of like to read what else he's sort of this about, the peril in the background, as he would sort of put it. It'd be sort of really interesting to see what he said about that. And just this other line as well. In the coming years, the Conservative Party should understand it is again fighting for its life to survive. It will have to be a much better organization. So, yeah. Will it survive? Who knows? Who knows? Then, of course, this as well. It will need to now better connect with the nation and anticipate even the changing trends that currently threaten it. Yep, That is certainly something as well. And I like the fact he doesn't mention, of course, the problem with membership. But one of the things we have talked about very recently is the falling membership. The fact that by the time of the next general election, there is going to be 1.2 million fewer Tory voters, not because they've gone to reform or a different party or something, or they've not just turned out to vote, but because they will be dead. you know, and he doesn't actually bring up the demographics. He just talks about bringing people into the party. So let's just quickly cover this before we get to the main point. So the starting point should be, of course, to increase membership. The collapse of the grassroots numbers of the party has been a complete unspoken disaster of the last 20 years. It is absurd that the party was nearly 100,000 members smaller than in 2022 after a dozen years in power than in the doldrums of 2005. It is a failure that it is now half the size of the Labour Party, and in absolute terms, the percentage of votes received. Yes, there are societal changes and trends here at play. Again, brings that up, but he doesn't really sort of nail down into those things as well. I think that's very important to bring that up as well. But he continues. The party will never be as big as it was in the 1950s, the era now of mass membership. That decline has been now far much greater than the other parties and would suggest that it's now an organizational failure. Maybe so. Maybe internal party politics is something that the Conservatives do need to focus on. Because I'll tell you what, Tom Tugendhat, and we talked about this today, Tom Tugendhat, a guy who once said we should not be leaving the ECHRE because it would be an absolutely dumb and stupid thing to do and would make us a pariah on the international stage, now has to say that he would leave the European Court of Human Rights because he knows that by not taking that stance, he will never win this contest. There is a fundamental problem in the Tory party, and it's not just the parliamentary party that needs sorting, it is the non-parliamentary party as well. So if you are going to attract members, if you are going to attract this whole new generation, how do you intend to do that? How are you going to do that? And more importantly, how are you going to bring the rest of that party with you? Because if you decide to do that, there's almost, in a way, you've got to start from zero, almost as if it was like a brand new party. And that in itself would be a massive uphill struggle. A massive uphill struggle. So yeah, now I want to get on to the main one. Because he constantly talks about sort of membership, sort of what the benefits of like being a member being being able to sort of elect members. No, I'd agree with that as well. That's something else that needs in the Labour Party as well. So this is it, policy wise, because it is policy that the Conservative Party does really need to take a very long, hard, and deep think about. So the Conservative Party must also think deeply about its offering in 2029. The election was lost this time for several reasons that all came together. Its policies were bad. Again, good that he's actually admitting on this, because I'll tell you what, none of the other articles we have gone over have ever talked about the policy offering that was on offer. So it continues. Its record was indeed poor. It lost the reputation for competency and decency. Each of these now needs to be restored if the party is to stand a chance in expanding in the next general election. Ultimately, policy will be a long and hard thing to work on. It needs to be informed by what Labour do and how conditions change over the next 4 to 5 years. As Labour themselves showed, there is not much you need to do before the manifesto. And even then, you can be pretty circumspect. Instead, the Conservative Party needs to think more broadly about what it wants to offer Britain and its vision for the future. And I'll tell you this now. Currently, at the moment, it is still this dumb vision of the future of where we're going to have a small state, but we're going to have low taxes and we're going to have no regulation, but we're going to be able to do all this trade. It's free market fundamentalism still is very much the order of the day in the Conservative Party. How are you going to actually break that ideological hold that currently has in the party? Because I don't see that breaking anytime soon whatsoever. And again, if any leader does do that, it is going to be an absolute battle. It is going to be a full-on battle to really break that, to break the hold of the free market fundamentalism that is now deeply embedded in the party. So he continues, it is often a mistake of parties that lose to keep repeating the messages that once brought success. This is short-sighted. Between now and the next election, many things will indeed change. The demography of the next electorate is one, but so is the political landscape. The party must consider what will likely arise and try to avoid those challenges. It should think about how Labour might fail, what might narrow the polls, and how it should be able to fight on those terms. There needs to be a Tory version of Britain in 2030 and beyond, with profound answers on conservatism as the world changes. And they are not going to be up to the challenge. They are not going to be up to challenge to deliver that. There is no one, there is no one in the current Conservative Party who can offer that vision, who can do that. No one whatsoever. So that ain't going to happen. That isn't going to happen because short-termism and, is the order of the day. Even in opposition, we will see that. And oh boy, are they going to get away with saying a ton of ridiculous stuff in opposition. So the party also needs to get people feeling good about it again. Its brand is now severely tarnished and it cannot be shied away from. And there should be no comfort. And I like this actually. I will applaud him for saying this because this is something we've seen time and time again in all these articles and not really explain this in deeply. There should be no comfort taken from the idea that there is, quote, no love for Keir Starmer. Instead, they should be worrying about 2024 and what was the hurt the Tories election. There needs to be humility and repentance. Again, that ain't going to happen. The Tory party being repentant and bringing humility. Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. The party is not there. The party just simply is not there. There also needs to be again, he continues to be a period when the party is now less belligerent and more as though it likes modern Britain. It needs to reconnect with the aspiring Britain and start to offer them something. It should also need to underpin with with a relentless focus on standards and governing efficiency. Again, that ain't going to happen. The Conservatives really have destroyed a huge amount of their reputation for standards and governing efficiency. So much. So much. And now you are starting with a position of, 121 MPs. Where are these people? Who are the ones that can bring that change, that can bring that humility and repentance, or reconnect, show that they actually love modern Britain? They can't because of the membership. The membership will have their guts for garters if they even start doing that. And this is why I've said there are huge multi-challenges facing the Tory party, but one of them is the reform of what is left of the Westminster Party. And then, of course, you've got the reform of the non-Westminster Party. Both are going to be incredibly hard battles, and it's going to take a long, long time. And here's the thing. You cannot reform one without doing the other, because if you don't, what will happen is that that membership that you didn't do anything with will start infecting, the parliamentary party, just as it did over the past couple of years, moving more and more further right, electing more and more, wackos and weirdos. So you can't do one without the other. So he continues, the Conservative Party perhaps has never been in a worse predicament. 2024 was a terrible result, and despite some promising aspects, the fundamentals are against it. Again, some promising aspects. Say that's there were no really promising aspects I could think from the Conservatives offered in 2024, but there you go. The age profile of voters is particularly gloomy. It is very difficult to try and build a coalition between voters who are now pulling in very different directions. Again, not only just like the public. What about your own? These two parties that are just pulling in radically different directions. The fact that there's so much factionalism in the Tory party pulling all these different directions. It has to decide if it wants to survive and implement the changes that can actually take it from here to something resembling success. Organizationally, there is now much low-hanging fruit, but there is not necessarily easy things to achieve. One of these will, of course, will yield at least significant benefits, and it starts with building up the membership and turning it back into a highly effective campaigning force in both voluntary and professional parties. And to do that, to reform that membership, oh no, you've got a long way to go if you want to reform the membership. Just as we said up at the top, again, his main thrust on this is you got to really change the membership. Well, you change the membership, and I'll tell you what, they'll desert. They'll either go to the Lib Dems or they'll go to UKIP. It's you've got to almost start from zero again. You've almost got to start as if you were a brand new party in many ways. And if you can't, well, the party is very much doomed. So back to this. The party cannot be outspent, outmanned, or outplayed by Labour again. Nor can it lose its most value. It loses in places vulnerable to now third parties. To start flipping the results at scale, a better organisation is now needed. Again, good luck with that. Good luck with that, because it ain't going to happen anytime soon. Even by the next general election, that ain't going to happen. You are talking at least a decades plus worth of reforms, and that's not even talking about what you would have to do to the Westminster Party as well. You've got a massive uphill battle, but at least this guy has somewhat been honest about this. I will say this, as from all the articles we've gone through of what went wrong, I would say this guy has his head more screwed on than any of the other Tory articles that we've been over. So back here. So politically, the battle will be harder. It needs good policies, but it also needs to detoxify the brand and rebuild the core of vote that now spans generations and demographics. What policies is it going to pursue? Just generally, what policies is it going to pursue? A winning appeal starts with now clearly standing for something, but that something is tailored to now fit the needs and concerns of the electorate. To achieve this means to understand the landscape as well as the next election and beyond. The party has done its best when it has been associated with competence and aspiration, a reputation it now desperately needs to reconstruct. And again, they're starting from zero from that. They've got a long way to rebuild that. That is for sure. It is almost now, and I like this because I think this entire sort of final post, I think, really sort of sums up some of the big problems of the Conservative Party itself. It is almost a sideshow to argue whether the party has been too left or too right, wet or dry, conservative or liberal. These are mostly nebulous to the median voter. In a way, he's right, they are. But here's the thing. These things, those questions, has been what has fundamentally split your party. into so many different factions and infighting. And I think that is something you actually have to consider. That is something they actually have to do. And guess what? If people don't want to be dragged along for the ride, well, you might have to, boot them out of the party, even if they are sitting MPs or, you know, big figures in like the non-parliamentary party. Might have to be done. But anyway, let's finish this off. The party failed because it had been too crap at campaigning, communicating, and governing. I'd agree. It was. The campaign was awful. Its communication skills was awful. Its governing, well, need we say anything about how bad Tory governance has been for the past 14 years? I think that sums up a lot of the stuff. But anyway, back to this. For the sake of its future and the rights in general, the real work now lies in rebuilding its capacity to do all those things and now trying to align with a group of voters who want to support it. That, at its heart, is the only way back. And that ain't going to happen anytime soon. You are talking at least a decade and a half's longer project to try and do this. Because you cannot, as this guy says, oh, we need to focus on sort of, rebuilding the membership and rebuild, getting these new people in. What do you do if Kimi Badnoch's your leader? Which very likely she will be. Like, very, very likely she will be the leader. Like, it is a fool's bet to bet against her. How then do you square those people who are go, oh, that's a really nice offering, and then look at what Kimi Badnoch is saying, or one of the other, crazy, lunatics in the party that's still there. The challenge, I will agree with him, is a huge one. But I will say this very, very clearly. There is no one in the party who is up to that challenge. Absolutely no one. But if the guy ever sees this and sort of says, well, actually, there's so I'll take a look at it, but I very much doubt that there is. Because one of the big things that we saw from Rishi Sunak was that he was not a leader. He was not inspiring. He was not willing to do the things that, a leader needed to do to bring the rest of the party with him. I don't even think Kimi Badnoch's capable of that either, because she's got a lot more, shall we say, frenemies than actual friends in the party. And they're going to love taking her down a few pegs, because I guarantee she'll probably last a year. Because within a year's time next year, we will have local elections, and if the Conservatives do horribly as they have done for the past two, well, time to change the leader. Like I say, only takes 19 letters now. So good luck. Good luck in that. But I will be, watching from the sidelines and laughing a lot about this contest, because my God, when you've got people like Mel Stride who are saying, I think I'm respected. Then yeah, you've got a problem. You've got a serious problem. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Do let me know what you think down below in the comments. And of course, as always, there is the Buy Me Coffee link. There's the Patreon page. There's the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club down below. And of course, don't forget to click on the like and share button. And of course, we'll see you all next time.